But I know earlier I mentioned everyone's favorite movie, Titanic, and the fact that on paper it's really bad. There are other films that are universally beloved, and when you scratch beneath the surface, you find that even though this is a secular film made by people who are not Christian, or at the very least didn't have interest in promoting Christianity, that there are solid Christian ideas in this story. And this touches on what I was saying earlier, which is that if you're just telling the truth, if you're just telling a story that speaks to the human heart and spirit in a certain way, you end up with a Christian story. One really great example of this is Shawshank Redemption. I'm not sure if you've ever seen this film.
I have, yeah.
And for anyone at home, spoiler alert, right? It's a 30-something-year-old film, but I recommend it. I think it's a beautiful film. And again, spoilers. But you look at the subject matter of this film, and Stephen King, who created the original novella, not like a conservative Christian guy, all right?
Really?
Yeah, believe it or not. I'm not sure if you've seen him on Twitter. And then Frank Darabont also was not creating this film to spread any kind of Christian message. He's just an unbelievably talented director and made one of the best movies of all time. But you look at this film, and it's uncanny. You have the story of an innocent man who's condemned for crimes committed by others, and he enters into the realm of the guilty, and he's very mysterious to everyone there, and they're all trying to size him up and figure out who this guy is, including the people who are in charge. They're also very fascinated by him. Who is this guy? And so as you're watching the film, initially, it seems as if maybe this is just kind of a story about social justice because he builds a library for the prisoners and he tries to make life a bit better for them. And then what you end up finding through the course of the film is that the true work that he's doing is the unseen stuff, some of the unseen stuff, when you find out that he slowly tunneled his way out of prison throughout the course of the film, and he like really does squeeze through the narrow gate in the most literal sense to get out of this prison. And then, once he's out of jail, he has the wealth that he's built up from his time suffering in prison under a different name. So like he uses a different identity that he created for the warden with this money laundering scheme. He enters through this narrow gate, and then he like literally becomes a new man and has all of the treasure that he built up through his suffering. And who does he end up saving? There's only one person who gets out of jail with him at the end, and that's Red. And Red is the quote-unquote only guilty man in Shawshank. At the beginning of the film, there's this joke where everyone in the prison is innocent. I didn't do anything. My lawyer messed the case up. I'm an innocent person. And Red says, nope, I'm the only guilty man in Shawshank. And he's the only one who makes it out. That is a profoundly Christian story told by people who weren't even intending to tell a Christian story.
Right.
And yet, it's one of the most universally beloved films of all time. Why? Because all of those plot points, all of those motifs and themes, they speak to something so deep within us that we know is true, Because if we know truth, we know Christ.
So the other day I said to somebody here, it just seems to me that for so long, media has been dominated by something that what was coming out of, say, CBS in the 1970s was lower than the culture that was enjoying it. So it was taking the culture down with it. It wasn't higher than the culture, It was lower. So it always seems to me that what came on television was, and then you watch these like, on CNN, they'll do CNN the 70s, and they'll do the television, how groundbreaking the television of the 70s was and all this. And they're celebrating this stuff that actually was just dragging people lower and lower and lower in their standards. It was getting dumber and dumber as it went, and less morally considered as it went. Is it just the case that popular culture has to be a moral drag, or can popular culture ever be a moral kind of sail that gets you going, you know?
It can be a moral sell.
You think so?
Yeah, absolutely. So here's what I want to comment on firstly. You mentioned this show made about the 70s. I remember when I was in college, my buddies and I were sitting around the TV, and one of those was on. It was about the 70s or 80s, but I think it's those PBS documentaries where they talk about how groundbreaking the media was in this decade.
Yeah.
And neither of my friends were that interested in politics or media analysis, but we were just cracking up because like every other scene was some pundit going, this moment was so important.
I know.
This was so important.
I know.
It was so important. This thing we did on television was so important.
Yeah,
right. It
right.
was such an important moment. And it's funny to like laugh at people for just patting themselves in the back because that's all it is the media talking about how awesome the media is.
Yeah.
But where they're actually correct is it was important. It was bad. but it was important. It did drag our culture down. It's important that that happened. That wasn't some small thing. And so on the one hand, when they were pushing for the moral degradation that they've pushed for, when the Christian right called that out, said that that was unacceptable, and accurately predicted what would flow from it, what did they say? It's just television. It's just a little moment on a show. It's not a big deal.
Why are you
and now what do they say? It was so important. It was so important that happened.
Excellent point, Seamus. I never thought. Yeah, you can't, it's a matter of constantly having it both ways. Mm-hmm. And the truth is, when they say art is important, they are right.
Yes,
art is important. It makes culture. It's one of the things that determines the energies that the culture will follow, or
That's right.
which way. This is like the river that culture floats on, is art in many ways, and that's music. Okay, so you could talk about the groundbreaking music of the 1970s. Yeah, there's a reason why things got worse after all that groundbreaking music, because it was morally destructive.
I
Now, that's not to say
agree.
that some of it is not. Like, you can find things in there that are, like you said, like the Shawshank Redemption.
Yes.
There's rock and roll music that's like that. There's rap music that's like, there's country music that's like, but the general thing is a drag that keeps pulling culture downward. And I'm not as sanguine as you are that pop culture can be a sail.
Well, not pop culture as it currently exists.
Okay.
But I think pop culture, as created by people who are trying to tell a genuinely true human story, can be good and can lift the culture up. So right now, unfortunately, our media is just not made by people, at least mass media, legacy media,
Right.
is not made by people who have positive values. I mentioned Titanic earlier, and I just keep talking about it, because I love that movie so much. But no, the reason I keep bringing it up is because it's a good example of somebody's values just kind of helplessly coming out through the story that they tell. I don't think these movies or TV shows were made by people who are sitting there and going, how can I destroy the culture?
No, of course not.
I
No.
think that they were just telling the story from their heart, and unfortunately, like, their heart is one that believes that those things are good.
Right.
And so we just have to have people in control of the media infrastructure. We need to, in the same way that everyone in control of the media right now has really bad values. We just need people to create really, really good art with good values. And people are going to, listen, people are going to gravitate towards what is better, what is more entertaining. People are not going to gravitate always towards what's morally better, but if you make a more entertaining and compelling product, people will watch it. And that's why we need to make really entertaining and compelling stuff that has a good value in it. It's not enough to just make stuff that has good values. You have to make stuff that has good values and is really entertaining. Part of what's so good about Catholicism is that we believe in truth. The truth is a person. That person is Jesus Christ. The truth is not just abstraction. It's not just a set of principles. It is an actual person. And the more you come to terms with that and recognize that recognition of truth is recognition of Christ, you will find that by not having an agenda and by just telling a story honestly and tapping into that human condition and what is relatable to people, you are spreading a positive, truthful, even Catholic message.